we're here at the tail end of a protest for a ceasefire, demanding a ceasefire and further political action here. So I'm going to talk with an activist who's just ended with the march here in Arcata. How are you doing today?
It is a somber mood.
Yeah.
It is honestly a somber mood. You know, I'm joking around with friends. We ask each other how we're doing all the time, but it's hard to be fake right now. You know, it's hard to really just give that answer that everybody expects. Oh, I'm doing great. You know.
Right. So in reality, what's weighing on your mind today after this protest? I did see you guys go around the block. I heard chants about boycott Chase, and I heard ceasefire now, and I heard free Palestine, right? All of those things are familiar.
Right, absolutely. I mean, the calls for a free Palestine have been happening since 1948, since it was occupied in the first place.
Yeah.
And long before that, honestly, you know, the Balfour Declaration in 1918, you can research where this ideology came from. It was a fringe ideology in the beginning, and it's grown to this kind of, this point where Judaism and Zionism are synonymous almost, but they're not. They're not. They're far from it.
Right.
And in reality, there are a lot of Jewish people who are standing up, present with us here today.
You just answered my next question.
Right, who are standing up against the Zionist regime in Palestine, speaking out against the genocide that is happening there. They'll try to tell you it's not a genocide, but it is a genocide by definition. They are massacring, wiping off the registry entire families, you know, and it's an unspeakable atrocity. We're up against millions, realistically probably billions of dollars in PR. They're spending a lot of money to disinform the masses, misinform the masses, and make us think that it's more complicated than it is. But you can see for yourself. If you study history, you'll see it is black and white. It really is. One thing on my mind today, if I can just continue on.
Sure.
We've been calling for a ceasefire, and I really, you know, our organizers here are calling for a ceasefire, and people all over the world are asking for a ceasefire. Joe Biden has already said that he will not ask for a ceasefire. He said there is no chance of him asking for a ceasefire. The United Nations is asking for a ceasefire. Israel has said, regardless of what America or anybody else asks, they will not be respecting a ceasefire. And so I feel like it's really necessary for us to move beyond this this kind of cordiality and asking for something that the people who claim to represent us, who actually don't, they are not going to respect. And so that's why it comes to us asking for people to boycott Chase, to join the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. You can find out about it, BDS movement, and all over the internet. You can research that and find out what brands, what companies, corporations are supporting the Israeli regime in Palestine and how we can take our money away from them and starve out the beast.
Money talks, then.
Money talks.
Okay.
It does.
Yeah, hit him in the pocketbook. That's the idea with the boycott?
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So how did you feel, you know, you did mention President Biden's sentiments on the matter. Can you speak a little more about that? Was it shocking to see him?
Not at all. I mean, honestly, not at all. We know that American presidents, whether you're talking about Biden or Trump, Obama to Bush, they all represent corporate interests. You know, it's been recognized for a long time that money plays such a huge role in American politics, we cannot call ourselves a democracy or a republic anymore. And people are still asking for others to go out and work within this system that can only be described as a plutocracy. Like you said, money talks. Unless you have a lot of money, your vote is not going to count. Your voice is not important to these people. And so I was not surprised at all to hear Biden speaking against his constituents, against the vast majority. 60% of Republicans, 80% of Democrats have been polled saying they support a ceasefire, at the very minimum. And our representatives, not one of them, aside from Rashida Tlaib, she is the only Palestinian representative who is the only representative speaking out for a ceasefire. And so no, I'm not surprised at all to see our these are vampires. They're not representatives. They're not feeling human beings. They are vampires, and they only care about money. And we're right now.
Question for you.
Okay.
Okay, so you did mention voting. Do you have thoughts on the presidential upcoming election?
I feel like it's entirely controlled. They have two people up there, Biden and Trump, and they represent very, very different interests in the eyes of the public, but in reality, they all support the same things. They all support war overseas. You can talk about what they say that is different. People want to call Joe Biden a communist, but nothing he has done politically has been socialist or moving in the direction of communism at all. I encourage people to look into what communism actually is. Not saying I support it, but just to know what it is, because they've made it into such a scary word for people that they don't even research it or find out what it is in a philosophy.
I see what you mean.
But what I'm saying is, realistically, I don't think we have a choice. I don't think we have a real choice. Think about how many wonderful, bright people you, as the person viewing this video, know who would do a far better job than Trump or Biden. And they will never make it to the national platform because they don't have the money. It is not a democracy. It's not a republic. There's, I don't want to say there's no point in voting, but by and large, the powers that be have taken the power out of voting. They have completely usurped and undermined our democracy, and I think it's very important for us, therefore, to move beyond this kind of controlled political charade, and look for real methods of change. I mean, yeah.
What about locally voting? What do you think about local elections? Do you feel like you're going to vote in local elections, and if so, how do you lean?
I think it's important, realistically, for all of us to vote in local elections. I think that it's a lot more difficult for the vested interest, for the moneyed interest, to get their hands into local politics, because in small towns, especially like this one, we can see who we're voting for. We see them out in the streets, at grocery stores. We know their friends. We have mutual contacts. We know who it is that we're voting for. And so it's a lot more difficult for them to get their money into our local elections. I personally can't say that I'm educated enough on the upcoming elections to say who I'll be voting for or how I'll be voting, but I definitely want to look into it and find out more about who is hopefully going to be representing us in the future. I know it's more of a popularity contest, realistically though. And
name recognition.
Name recognition. It's about, at the end of the day, who has the most money even still. And because they can afford to have the signs plastered all over town, or have the it goes without saying, really. But money controls everything. I think that if elections are going to be important, it's local elections that are going to have any power for us. But at the end of the day, they are at the whim of the federal and state representatives who will not represent us, period. And so it's a reckoning that America and Americans have to come to terms with. We don't live in a democracy. Maybe we never did. We don't live in a republic. Realistically, we never did. And we need to find real ways to come together. Regardless of what we think we disagree on, we have a lot more commonalities than differences. We need to find a way to come together as working people, as people here on the ground, real human beings. Turn off the TVs, turn off the media that is lying to us left and right, and see how we can build here amongst our brothers and sisters, amongst our family members, amongst our friends who we actually know and trust here in our communities.
Thank you for that. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.